It's the coldest, windiest, highest, and driest continent on the planet. It's a landscape shaped by wind, rock, and ice. This is Antarctica, a place like nowhere else on Earth. I'm Wolfe. Join me on Travels to the Edge. Before exploring Antarctica, the planet's southernmost continent, I couldn't resist a quick stop in the remote Falkland Islands, which lie east of the tip of South America. Surrounded by the cold South Atlantic, the Falkland Islands are an isolated sanctuary for marine mammals and birds that thrive in these high latitudes. I'm on a very remote island off the northeast corner of the Falkland Islands known as Steeple Jason. This island has never been inhabited by man, and consequently it is absolutely covered in black-browed albatrosses. Tens of thousands of pairs nest on this island. One of the nice things that I experience while I'm sitting here photographing these albatrosses is the sensation of these birds coming directly overhead as they're landing or catching the currents. Some albatrosses literally circumnavigate the globe between nesting seasons. So they're birds that are born to fly, and they only come ashore once during the nesting season. Otherwise, these birds are on the wing, off the land, and out over the air currents. Although their numbers are declining, this is still the largest black-browed albatross rookery in the world. Literally hundreds of thousands of birds are nesting in this sprawling plain all the way to the sea. And to photograph it, I'm choosing to shoot patterns. Basically shooting the repetition of every bird shape that is evenly spaced across this plain. These isolated islands present a unique opportunity to get close to one of the world's rarest raptors. I've got a great shot right now of this caracara, which is a striated caracara, also known as a Johnny Rook. This is an opportunistic bird of prey that is always looking for the exposed egg or the unattended baby. I'm shooting it with a wide-angle lens, and I'm really bringing in this beautiful rugged coastline, the beautiful deep blues of the ocean, the surrounding black-browed albatrosses, and it just makes a great shot. As evening approaches, tens of thousands of nesting birds settle in for the night. Here at the very end of the day, light is coming really at an oblique angle to these very calm black-browed albatross. Is really beautiful dark sky in the distance, and it's just the perfect shot to end the day. From the Falkland Islands, we're heading 600 miles farther south, across the notorious Drake Passage to Antarctica. I've just spent the last 2 days at sea crossing the Drake Passage. And now the rewards, Antarctica. It is amazing. Fantastic light. Really, really excited to be here. I've asked Jeff Renner for a primer on the geologic history of this frozen landmass. So what can you tell me about the Antarctic Peninsula in particular?
Well, being a geologist, I look to the rocks primarily, and one of the earliest geologists down there did identify the Antarctic Peninsula as an extension of the Andes. In fact, it was called the Andes. The geology of the Andes is similar to the geology which is in the peninsula. It's dormant here, it's finished now. The volcanic activity is finished, but it was a volcanic island arc.
Would you consider Antarctica a desert?
Well, by definition, a desert is not necessarily temperature controlled, but it's the amount of precipitation. And sure enough, Antarctica is classed as perhaps the driest. It's a cold desert as against a hot desert. The snowfall where we are, it's maritime, so you may be getting 15 to 20 feet of snow a year. Not so on the mainland, the East Antarctica. Their snowfall may be only half an inch or so a year. But the difference there is that it doesn't go. It stays, it accumulates, and then it gradually turns to ice and then flows outward from the interior to carve off through the glaciers, and you gradually get this huge mass of floating ice. That is an ice shelf.
I'm often asked, what is my favorite place to photograph on Earth? And without hesitation, I always respond, Antarctica and South Georgia Island. Virtually anywhere I take my camera and aim it, I've got a great image, whether it's the ice and the beautiful way the light reflects off the water and these beautiful mountains. Got a small rookery of Gentoo penguins sitting on this rock promontory with this beautiful backdrop of a glacier. All these Gentoo penguins are incubating eggs, and they've made a nest literally out of tiny pebbles. There are no grasses, there are no sticks down here in the Antarctica, so they make do with what they've got. All day long, they steal rock after rock after rock until the nest they're stealing from no longer has rock. Stone thief, stone thief. Look at that bird. There's no pride in these birds. They'll come over 10 feet away, steal the rock that this bird has really worked hard to steal from other birds. always got to keep your eye on these guys. You never know when they're going to sneak up behind you and steal things out of your pack. I've got a very interesting shot here. It's of Gentoo penguins nesting on a rock in the distance, and in the foreground I'm incorporating the bones of a humpback whale, which undoubtedly was harvested during the heyday of the whaling industry that really was centered here in the Antarctic during the beginning of the last century. One of the interesting birds that lives here is the blue-eyed shag. It's actually a cormorant that also feeds in the krill-rich waters here in these very, very cold seas. The distinctive thing about the blue-eyed shag is the blue eye, and it is such a beautiful color. It's almost a deep cobalt blue that rings the eye. Well, this is exactly what I was hoping to get, which is a really nice framing of this mountain now with these very abstract, almost magical icicles hanging down, and each icicle has a little frozen drop. Oh, this is beautiful. As remote as this continent is, it hasn't escaped the influence of man. History professor Tim Bowman describes the early history of whaling here. What do you know about the whaling industry down here? I mean, when did it start and what was the extent of it?
Well, whaling began in the Antarctic in a serious way in 1904 when C.A. Larson established a base in South Georgia, but it affected the whole of the Antarctic region. And over a period of time, huge numbers of whales were taken until the industry basically shut down. What we're looking at in terms of numbers is over 1 million killed whales. And if you want to take that 1 million whale figure and make it real, look out over the ocean. If you're anywhere down here, look into the bay. We have a bay behind us right now. Look out there. Do you see a spout? I'm telling you, in 1904, you'd have had a hard time counting the spouts. You could have walked ashore on the backs of the whales.
I'm intrigued by the way the residue of the whaling industry is disintegrating and aging, lichens attached to this metal as it breaks down. And there's a lot of textures and colors that I find very intriguing. I really love the way these rivets have really exploded and disintegrated as the cold and the ice works its way into the recesses, and they just explode. During the process of thawing and freezing, it just really wreaks havoc on metal. And as cracks appear, lichens establish a foothold, and the whole thing now becomes a study of texture and color, and that's really what I'm after. These zodiacs are absolutely perfect for this environment. They have the ability just to be like mini icebreakers, pushing through the ice, getting us into great, great positions. The thing that I think defines Antarctica more than anything is ice. And behind me is a classic iceberg. And unlike any iceberg I've photographed before, this one is full of icicles. And it presents a new subject in a beautiful, ethereal way. This is about as dynamic an environment as you'd find anywhere. And everything's changing. Nothing stays the same. All the configurations of the icebergs are constantly moving around in these currents. I could just stay here and shoot all day long. There's several Weddell seal pups just frolicking in and amongst the ice that's building up along the shore. They're very, very young, and yet, even at this age, they're practicing behaviors that will really serve them well as adults. So sparring and engaging and always trying to get the upper hand with their other baby will teach them the necessary skills as adults to really survive in this really difficult and harsh environment. Really nice, gentle expression, which is just the perfect counter to this really hostile world. He's very curious. He's just playing like all babies would, completely unafraid of us. And he's coming in closer. He's gonna come in. Hello. And I'm staying very low, so he's really, really curious. And wow, just beautiful. It's those moments throughout my career that I take home and I'll remember the rest of my life. Those nice, engaging moments between photographer and subject where there's just this bond of trust. And it's really what it's about. This is a classic Antarctic scene. Adelie penguins sitting on ice right along the shore. I've got icebergs in behind them that are really distinctive in their shapes, and then really dramatic clouds in the distance, these lenticular clouds, which are really indicative of high winds in the atmosphere. It is truly Antarctica. There are 17 different species of penguins. The Adelie, like the emperor, are truly birds of the ice. They are at the most upstaged by penguins. I got a really nice pair of Adelie penguins just sitting there, and the way their flippers, if I move my camera ever so much, it's like they're holding hands. Right now I've got a beautiful shot of a single penguin, and I'm framing it through an iceberg on the beach that has a natural hole in it. So it's really a nice way of looking at a penguin in yet, again, a different way. got a beautiful pattern of about 60 Adelie penguins, and their black and white coloration is really, really striking in this late afternoon light. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, and here's one coming in. Oh, there they go. Wow. I feel like a fox in a chicken coop here. There's so much to shoot. I love the patterns of the ice, the late afternoon light, the austerity of this place for me is magnificent. Oh, wait a minute, look at this. Great, just keep heading towards this iceberg. There's a great iceberg we're approaching, and as the light gets lower, the icicles hanging off the overhang really are catching the light. 6 to 7/10 of this iceberg lies below the surface of this water. And that's what's so deceiving about it. Oh, this is a great shot right now. All the icicles are really highlighted by the light, and I've got a nice gray backdrop. Wow. If this doesn't exemplify Antarctica, I don't know what else does. My mission as a photographer is really to translate the environment. I love to challenge myself to record the environment, to show people maybe the Antarctic they've never seen before. South Georgia Island is bitterly cold, wild, inhospitable, and yet it has one of the largest concentrations of wildlife found anywhere. And is my favorite place on Earth. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me on Travels to the Edge. The southernmost tip of South America is Cape Horn. Antarctica lies 800 miles to the south. The remote island of South Georgia lies to the east of these two continents, exposed to the full fury of the Southern Ocean. Joining me on this journey is one of the world's foremost authorities on seabirds, Peter Harrison, and explorer and naturalist, Shirley Metz. This is the wildest island I can think of.
There are only a few hundred people in the world that have ever circumnavigated this island because it's a fearful place.
Take us around this coastline.
This is as wild as it gets in South Georgia. We will feel as though we are in Antarctica, true and proper.
Tell me about this area.
It was here that Shackleton came in after his 800-mile journey. To this day, is still gasping at the open boat journey of 800 miles.
What do you think is in store for us?
Maybe 2.5 to 3 days of rolling around in the windiest, stormiest ocean on the world.
run into a first-class storm with 30-foot seas. Albatrosses are being tossed around. Very, very dramatic, but I am getting some great shots. If ever a place said primordial, it has to be South Georgia, especially in this pre-dawn light. The sounds, the smells, the sights of all these penguins and elephant seals. This is the place that I love to come back to year in, year out. It's really early in the morning and the light hasn't quite gotten up to where I can really start to do my work. So I like to walk around with my subjects and figure out a place to photograph them. Let's go down to the beach, get some photos. We'll have a little lunch. A lot of penguins here.
Biggest colony in the world of king penguins. A few years ago, we only had, say, 200,000 king penguin pairs on South Georgia. Now, over 400,000 pairs of king penguins.
Why do you think they're increasing at such an amazing rate?
Well, I think the Earth is warming, and the warmer ocean around South Georgia, the pullback of all of these glaciers and so on, it has benefited the king penguin.
I'm like a kid in a candy store. There's so much to work with. If a committee of designers got together, I don't think they could have designed a more beautiful bird. Golden yellow stands out so regally against the silver. Silver and gold in a beautiful shape on the top of these birds. And it's just so fun to work with the color and the design of them. What I try to do after having established a sense of place to these birds is find the details. It's those little moments that you capture on film that you bring away that really play nicely with the larger perspective. These are amazing, these elephant seals. They are so enormous, multi-tonned animals that come ashore to rest and to give birth to little seals, and these are actually mid-sized males right now. They're just incredible how high they can reach. They can stand up much taller than me, and then they spar like this. They're sparring, they're interacting. There's little babies all over the place. They make absolutely gross sounds. They're amazing animals. I go into a new environment, I like to shoot an establishing shot at a really wide angle. I love working with overcast light. Right now, I've got the best of both worlds. I've got overcast light, but blue sky behind. Very, very classic, calm morning, which is really an unusual event on South Georgia. Right now, everybody's calm, I'm calm, it's peaceful.
This is the only island in the world where you can actually come and sit with wandering albatrosses.
Peter, this is a big bird. Tell me about this bird.
Well, it's not only big, Art, it is the biggest flying bird in the world. There's nothing that is bigger. Males weigh about 24 to 25 pounds in weight. That's a Thanksgiving turkey size, but with wings,
Wow.
11 to even 12 feet from wingtip to
12
wingtip.
feet, two
Yep.
basketball players side by side.
I guess that's right. I can fit under one wing there, and they'd still have a few inches on me.
Very long-lived birds.
Long-lived, longer than I am. I'm 60 years old. That bird on the right could be 70 years old.
70.
Seven zero. And not only that, these birds, when they fly 500 to 600 miles in a single day. When the youngster leaves this nest, goes out onto the ocean for the first time, spends the first 7 years minimum at sea, by the time it gets back, it will have flown 1.5 million miles. In its lifetime, these birds are estimated to fly some 15 million miles. That's around 18 round-trip journeys to the moon and back. Nothing flies further than an albatross. Sadly, they are threatened. In the 20-odd years that I've been coming here, we've had numbers on South Georgia plummet from 4,000 birds now down to less than 1,800 birds. We've lost half in about 25 years.
Fur seals present a formidable challenge for photography here on the island because they're so aggressive. These southern fur seals were nearly hunted to extinction in the early 1900s. In fact, they thought they were extinct. And since the early 1900s, they've gone from maybe 30 animals to 2 million in such a short time. One of the most extraordinary comebacks of any animal species. And right now, these animals have come back with a vengeance. They're extraordinarily aggressive, very territorial. They bite. They will charge you from 100 feet away. I've had tripod legs sheared off and a force to be reckoned with. Shirley, it's amazing how this south coast of South Georgia is so much more glaciated and rugged looking.
Oh, very much so. And this is where Shackleton ended up coming after his 800-mile journey. He arrived here in King Haakon Bay. He spends about 4 or 5 days here, gets resupplied nails the nails to the bottom of the soles of his feet, and then makes the journey up over the spine of South Georgia to the other side. 36 hours across the glaciers over mountains that were never ever traveled before, not mapped, not explored, no food up in the mountains, so they had to take all of that with them.
Incredible story.
Yes, I don't think very much replicated at all still today, and that's when men were men.
An incredible journey and an amazing rescue, given the fact that nobody died on his entire trip.
That was always something that Shackleton claimed, that no man was ever lost under my command.
This is a freshwater lake left over from a receding glacier. And in this lake are hundreds of young weaners, elephant seals that were born probably a month or so ago. And they've been fed on very, very rich milk from their mothers, and now the mothers have gone out to sea to replenish their nutrients. But for right now, these pups are jousting and playing and just hanging out in this very benign water. Great shot from about 3 feet away, wide angle. I've approached them from very low. They're curious animals. If you want to get unusual shots, you get into unusual positions. And by staying low, letting them look into my lens, they'll come right up and I get these distorted wide angles, which can often be fantastic. And I love these kind of perspectives, because if you just stand up from 5 feet up, looking 30 feet away, it looks like you're looking at these animals. And now I want to kind of interpret their landscape, interpret their environment, and you do that by getting into their environment on their level. These guys are known as weaners simply because they've been weaned from their mothers, and when they see somebody like me laying on the beach, they may in fact think I'm mother. So they come in close, and I just love this interaction with these wild animals, and I'm careful not to touch them. Hey, come here. Come on, you want it, you want it. Oh, there we go. Now, he's so curious. Is he gonna touch my lens? Don't touch my lens. Oh. Yeah, if you blow snot on my lens. Ah, that's what I said. Don't do that. Ah, excuse me. Now look at it. That's you. Do you trust me? Do you think I look like your mother? That's it, baby. Your diamonds. More feeling. Oh, yeah. It's miserable outside, blowing rain, it's cold, and yet some of the best shots I've ever shot are in these very conditions. Right now I have a small group of macaroni penguins that have just emerged from the sea, and I'm bundled up one of the few times not using a tripod because I'm just maneuvering the camera every couple of seconds. Now if a wave comes up and totally soaks me, it'll be well worth it because these are beautiful shots. Really, really nice. Even a reflection in a little pond, and there's a fur seal right behind them. So they've hopped right into me and they're coming right up me, and goodbye. This is up close and personal because this fur seal has scared them. So they're not so concerned about me as much as the fur seal. This is a very windy day here, and I cannot find any penguins or seals on this really remote beach. But what I can find are some beautiful landscapes, but on a very intimate level. What I'm framing up here is just a close study of these beautiful lichens that thrive here in these very cold conditions on South Georgia Island. They're among the oldest, slowest growing plants on Earth. I love this. I mean, it's great for the mind. And when you're photographing wildlife, you're so caught up in following the action. But here, your mind can relax. You can really get into the moment. Well, you sure know a lot of history about this place.
Well, I come maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and every time we always come to Grytviken, the site of the largest of our whaling stations, and there is a lot of history here. Grytviken was the first of the whaling stations here at South Georgia, and it was started off in 1904. Now, what you have to imagine, Art, is that Cumberland Bay at that time was full of whales, and I mean full. Not like a whale here or there. I'm talking of hundreds and hundreds of whales.
Wow.
They never left the bay. They caught hundreds and hundreds of whales. All they had to do was to row out, put the harpoon in the whale, and bring the scrot, that's what a dead whale is called, back into the harbor. By the 50s, the whales were getting harder and harder to catch. These same boats that caught whales just in this bay, now they were going over 200 miles from this island to find whales.
Wow.
Actually ended around 1965, 1966.
So about 55 years.
55 years. The combined whaling stations of South Georgia took 175,250 whales. They ranged from the biggest, the blue, to the rarest down in these waters, which was the southern right whale. Nothing escaped the harpoons here.
This is also the final resting place for a famous person.
Shackleton finally came to rest here. He died in the bay here. His men erected a cross on the hill. He told his wife, "My heart is always in the south." And if you go to the graveyard, you'll see that every single grave is buried with the head facing north to Europe. Sir Ernest Shackleton, the boss, is the only person with his head and his heart facing south to the continent he loved, called Antarctica.
What a fitting place for him to be. I was walking down the beach and I just happened to see this great opportunity. There's a family of fur seals, several females, and an adult bull. Really nice moment with these otherwise very aggressive seals. There's 3 pups, 2 are the typical black, and 1 is this beautiful cream color. 1 in 2,000 occur with this color face right in front of us. What's nice about this is the seal pup's eyes are so black, it's a great contrast. The shots that I'm looking for are when the baby and the mother's heads come together and there's a little moment of nurturing, and it just really plays well to the camera. Despite its isolation and extreme climate, South Georgia Island remains a remarkable oasis of wildlife. There's simply no other place like it in the world. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me next time on Travels to the Edge.